Council, come to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mandy, could you please call the roll?
Vanderhorst. Here. Danstra.
Here.
Eva.
Here.
Hopkins.
Here.
Spore. Here. And DeYoung is absent.
Okay, a couple of announcements. If you're attending via the phone, you will be given an opportunity to provide verbal comments during the dedicated public forums and public hearings. I would ask that you would keep your microphones or telephones on mute until the time at which you would like to speak. And if you're viewing the meeting presentation online, it's a possibility you could experience a delay or loss of connectivity. If this occurs, a full meeting presentation can also be viewed at the City of Pella website. Also need to announce we'll have a policy and planning meeting following the regular council meeting to discuss the proposed amended wage scale for fiscal year 21-22, proposed health plan premiums for fiscal year 21-22, and proposed personal policy manual update. Can I get a motion for approval of the tentative agenda?
So moved. Support.
Spore, Banstra, any discussion? All in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Spore.
Yes.
Danstra.
Yes.
Eva.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Vanderhorst.
Yes.
Motion passed. I would like to reappoint Brenda Huseman to serve as a second term on the Library Board of Trustees. Brenda currently serves as a board president. Brenda is a preschool teacher at Pella Christian Grade School. She attended all meetings held over the past year. If approved, Brenda's second term would expire July 1, 2024. Can I get a motion for approval?
Support.
Skibout, Spore, any discussion? All in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Eva.
Yes.
Spore.
Yes.
Vanderhorst.
Yes.
Danstra.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Motion passed. Need to announce that we'll have a closed session pursuant to Iowa Code Chapter 388.9, Paragraph 1 to discuss marketing and pricing strategies or proprietary information of a city utility. If its competitive position will be harmed by public disclosure not required of potential or actual competitors, and if no public purpose would be served by such disclosure. We will also have an exempt session pursuant to Iowa Code Chapter 21.9 to discuss employment conditions of employees not covered by collective bargaining agreements. This time we have opportunity for anyone from the public who would wish to speak or address the council regarding any item that is on the agenda. If you want to do that, if you're here in person, please come to the podium, give us your name and address. Try to limit your comments to 3 minutes. You also, if you're listening in, you have an opportunity to address the council with any issues on the agenda right now. Seeing and hearing none, we'll move on. Can I get a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
So moved. Support.
Vanderhorst, Spore, discussion?
Only question I had, or maybe Jeanette could answer, we're running behind on the community service minutes, board minutes.
We meet as needed, so we typically meet.
Oh, so it's not
somewhere.
nothing?
Yeah, just only if we have items that we need to
Okay.
vote on. Otherwise, it's just updates.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Vanderhorst.
Yes.
Spore.
Yes.
Danstra.
Yes.
Eva.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Motion passed. Okay, moving on to petitions and communications. A special event permit request for Pella Farmers Market. Mike?
Hey, it's Mr. Mayor. I'd be happy to explain this item. For those following at home, I'm on slide number 3. And tonight's request comes to us from the Pella's Farmers Market, and it's for a special permit event to change the location for 2021, or this upcoming season for the Farmers Market. It's important to note that the market currently operates out of the parking lot of the First Reformed Church, and specifically what the promoter is requesting to do is relocate the market to the east side of Central Park. And overall purpose of this request is to make the market more visible and accessible for the community. It is important to note that the dates for the farmers market that's being requested would actually start this Thursday, June 3rd, and would occur every Thursday Now, I would like to mention, Mr. Mayor, that originally the promoter requested to operate the market from 5 to 7 p.m. However, there is a request, an amended request to the event that we're considering this evening to actually extend the time frame from 4 to 7 p.m. Now, as far as kind of support for this proposed change, it is important to note that it is staff's understanding that PACE Alliance is in agreement and supports the location change as well. Now, what we have on, also included with this request is the closing of parking spaces, and Andy, let's go ahead with that. What would happen, or would actually be the parking spaces on the east side of the square on Main Street. Main Street would remain open, and the farmer's market itself would actually be in Central Park, but they would need to actually have access, or actually have these parking spaces on the east side of the square closed for the operations of the farmer's market. Now, the resolution that we'll be considering this evening, if the council passes a special event permit, is to close the parking spaces on Main, the west side of Main Street, from Washington to Franklin from 3 to 7:30 p.m. for each event on this as well. Now, as far as the department reviews, it is important to note that all city staff or all city departments have reviewed this request this evening. In addition, the city has received the fee and insurance certificate. And finally, Mr. Mayor, it is important to note that staff is recommending approval of the special event permit and resolution this evening. And Mandy, I believe, does that conclude our presentation? Okay. Now, with that, we'd be more than happy to answer any questions the council may have on this item.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved. Support.
Randahorst, Spore, discussion.
Just for clarification for you, Michael, that the parking on the east side of the square there, is that it's not no parking between 4 and 7? Or is it isolated to, there's no parking there at all? Correct. Okay. Here it's got parking 4 to 7 p.m. It meant no parking though, right?
From 3 to 7.
Okay.
Yeah, closing all parking spaces. Oh,
Yeah, well, in the yellow will be closed parking. There will not be no parking.
Right.
Those parking spaces will be used for the event.
Right. Oh, so you can park there if you're going to,
The producers, the local producers would be also your vegetable farmers, your bakers.
they can park there.
They bring their goods, they can park there, then bring their goods to the table to sell.
How about the customers? They cannot park there.
We would need that for the producers, the vendors.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
So is that's a misprint, it should be east side? Oh, west side of Main, sorry.
West side of Main Street,
East side
east
of
side
Main.
of the park. Yes.
So I just have a question. I received an email from someone not liking this move. Have you heard from, Vivian, have you heard from many people, or?
I would say there are about half of the vendors who are concerned about moving at this stage. You know, we started February planning, and we've already have several markets. And we value the flat surface we are in. Maybe it isn't the best avenue for the whole market, but I just want to say, I spent a long time on the Zoom meeting today with other marketers who, I tossed this out, what did you do when someone wanted you to move? And over again, I heard that is very devastating unless you start very early to prepare your community. We are 4 weeks in. I have so many posters outside.
This person was concerned about access for elderly people. That was the concern that I was emailed.
Our flat surface right now is very good.
Yeah.
And they don't have to walk any more than 1/4 of a block to access the market. What will that be if we are on the east side of the square? How far will those folks have to walk?
Because the west side of the square is where the other vendors are. So south side of the square is open, right, for parking,
South side
and the north side.
And in fairness, that's why we asked that we go back to 4 o'clock, so that the people who are interested in shopping without coming down for the park events can shop from 4 to 5 o'clock, 5:15, without having to feel like they are having to compete for parking spaces for those folks who are coming down to watch the concerts and to eat downtown.
Well, I think, personally, I think that for the vendors, the additional visibility will more than make up for the move, because there's gonna be a lot more people downtown than will, but anyway, that was just a concern expressed to me. It was mostly about access for elderly people.
So it said the event promoter, was that not people of the market, you folks? Is requesting to relocate?
I guess I'm the promoter, but I was invited to do that. I didn't pursue doing that. If I had pursued to do that, I would have done that way before February or during February.
So who has brought this, who brought that up to you?
So Bruce out of the JDEX Genlink office, so Karen Eichen and I have been working, sort of planning this a little bit, saying, hey, we'd like to get it back up to the farmer's market, or to the Thursdays on the Square. We're also in partnership with a local producer, Prairie Lake Acres, that's Luke and Corinne Wyma, and saying, hey, how can we help your business? And they said that we need more leads, more sales channels. And for them, it comes down to a matter of, hey, is Pella Market, is it worth their time? They feel it'll be a lot more worth their time, as Mayor DeWard said, in front of more people. And so that's where we then met with Vivian and said, hey, does it make sense to move it up to the Square to provide more sales dollars, sales revenue for these local producers that are trying really hard at what they're doing?
I guess I'd be really interested in feedback from you, Vivian, at the end of the year. Because I like to frequent the market, I really do. And it's just so easy, you're in and you're gone. I'm not gonna do that. This is just my opinion, but I doubt if I frequent it as much as I have.
Yeah, I think
So I would just, and let's go, I'm not opposed, don't get me wrong.
Yep.
But I would really like feedback from you guys.
Yep.
You know, the market is a destination right now.
Yeah,
It isn't something that people walk by and say, woo, woo, woo. You know, when we were removed from the downtown area 10 years ago, I volunteered to work with the farmers market people because they were just astounded. But when we got to First Church, and I said, I will help you do whatever it takes to find a place. When we got to First Church, that first year, they said over and over again, you know what? We have people coming here to buy, not to stand here and look and to talk to my friend about, you know, there's soap over here, did you see this? Why aren't you doing this or whatever? They were astounded about the difference between a destination and entertainment.
yeah. And that's why I go to the farmer's market. If I want some veggies, I go to the farmer's market. And it's a quick in and a quick out. No, I hope it all works out. Please don't get me wrong, but I'm just, I question how much it'll help. I would really appreciate feedback for next year.
Yeah, we would. We're going to
Really
take that
would.
all the way throughout.
Yeah, also from you, Vivian.
No, we're partnering with Vivian on this to make sure.
It's
Okay.
It
very
does work
important
for
that
everyone.
we have a market survey. We don't have that. We have perceptions. We
Yeah.
have one or two vendors who are saying, I need and I want. I don't want to operate that way.
But I think you could be, if you look at what Des Moines has downtown Saturdays, what is that in Pella? That's Thursday nights. And so Karen and I are thinking, hey, can we create more of that Des Moines Farmers Market vibe on Thursday nights in Pella to make it much more of a destination? We're gonna have hiccups along the way, yes, but can we create that even more of a destination Thursday nights, get it in front of more people as well? Because right now it serves really one demographic really, really well. But can we serve the entire demographic of Pella really, really well with Thursday nights in the Square, and opening at 4 for the seniors, and then extending it past the work time for the rest of Pella community.
The farmer's market is a destination in Des Moines, though.
Is it, or say is?
Is.
Yes, correct.
It's a purpose.
And that's what this was a destination. You know, if we want to expand it. And, I mean, we could go on and on here.
Yeah.
I just want some feedback for next year.
Yep, I can go ahead
Thank
and
you.
agree with Councilman.
Anything else?
I'm just surprised because when I read this, Vivian, I thought that this was your idea. It's so, I'm kind of dumbfounded and need a little time to think about this because I thought, well, you know, I'm surprised and I'm a little apprehensive because I know how this, you've put a lot of heart and soul into this and you know the climate of the vendors. You know the climate of the purchasers, and so if this is something that you want to do or you're told to do, those are two very different things. And then that also bleeds into how that person in charge runs things. I mean, like, if this is a have to and not a want to, I'm really concerned about that. And I can honestly, I got several emails too about accessibility, and most of it was about the grade and finding parking. And so I'm like Bruce. I think that if this is what it is for this year, then so be it. But I think we need to be well aware of numbers. You know, did you see a decline? Did you see an increase? What was the demographic that went? But from you, Vivian, those are the numbers I'd like to see, the numbers from you. Because that, I'm just kind of like I said.
Either way, and then you can get some numbers. We have people coming from all over our parking lot. They're, right?
Right.
So we have little buttons to
Right.
figure out how many people are coming, but it is really tough. We don't have one door,
Right.
right?
Right.
Well, I think it gotta be dollars, Vivian. I mean, that's what it's all about for you guys. It's the amount of dollars, and if you have any way of tracking that, that's ultimately why those vendors are there, is for the dollars. So if you have some way of tracking that, that'd be great.
You know what? I have never asked the vendors what they're earning. I do not expect them to tell me what they are earning.
No, but they should be willing to say, our volume has increased being down here, or they should have an opinion on it.
You gave a good word just earlier, you said market survey, you know, and I think there's going to have to be a very comprehensive survey if this move goes place, and have the vendors be very willing to state their preference and why. They don't have to put whether they made 15,000 or 12,000, you know, that's immaterial, but they should be able to convey to you folks, you know, what was this a flop or was this a good move?
I think it'd be pretty easy anecdotally for the vendors to say, yeah, this was great. We had a great year, and that would make it easier for the change. Like, yep, it was worth it, or it was a complete flop and we hated it. And then, okay, then we can reassess. But I think it would be pretty easy to tell from the vendors, like Calvin and Bruce said. The dollars, they don't have to tell the dollars. They can just say, yeah, we want to stay here because we had a great year, or it didn't pan out. I think it'd be pretty clear at the end of the season.
That may be true. I learned from other marketers today that moving from one place to another cuts a lot of people out. They're accustomed to their market, okay? And so I'm not interested in saying, let's do it for a year and find out if it's gonna be really wonderful. You know what, that's kind of hard to just encourage, right? I'm an encourager, I'm a supporter, I'm not their boss.
Well, I think we need to be careful here
Yeah.
and make sure we understand what our role as a city is.
Exactly.
We're not here to make their decisions about where they want to be. They came to us with a request for us to close the parking on the street. That's simply how we have to look at it. It's a permit.
It's not ours.
It's not our to say this is a good move or bad.
Right.
I asked that question just from an accessibility standpoint because I had gotten an email, but I don't think we want to
Right.
get into the middle of
Dive into
who submitted it. What we have before us is a request for a permit to close those parking spaces for those hours. We have to stay focused there.
Yep.
And
Well, I think it is
not-
pertinent information where the request came from,
yeah,
in my
well,
mind.
yeah,
But all we can do is give our opinion.
yeah.
We can't.
And Pella Farmers Market, I assume, is a loose group, or is there
It's a club.
It's a club, yeah, social club, so I don't know who signed the permit request, but,
I'm sure I did.
okay. So Vivian has signed it. Okay?
Not that I read it totally.
Well, I know your heart and soul is in this farmer's market, Vivian, because I've visited with you, and I know you want the best for your vendors, and I hope this will be a good move for you. Okay, anything else? All right, so the motion is to grant the special event permit request. All in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Vanderhorst.
Yes.
Spore. Yes. DeAnstruck.
Yes.
Skiba.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Motion passed. Okay, now moving on to the resolution number 6301, entitled Resolution Temporarily Closing Public Ways or Grounds in Connection with a Special Event Known as Pella Farmers Market. Can I get a motion for approval?
Support.
Spore, Hopkins. I assume there's nothing to add.
You are correct,
Any
sir.
more discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Spore.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Vanderhorst.
Yes.
DeAnstruck.
Yes.
Skiba.
Yes.
Motion passed. Okay, moving on, resolution number 6302, entitled Resolution Approving the Renewal of the Yard Waste Transportation and Disposal Agreement with Metro Waste Authority. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, once again, I'd like to direct the council's attention to the big board for presentation on this item. And what this resolution will actually do is, as Mayor Ward stated, is renew our current yard waste transportation and disposal agreement with Metro Waste Authority. Now, it is important to note that contract renewals have been approved in the past with no cost increases for the program on it. This year, they are proposing a cost increase for the program. And specifically, we do have a list of the summary of the price changes that they do. Now, from the city standpoint, when we sell the bags and materials that are used for the program, we sell them at cost on it as well. So whatever we get charged by Metro Waste Authority is what we charge to the end consumer. So council board to approve this agreement, renew this agreement. These would be the individual costs based on past practices that the city would have as far as the cost. So the most common item that we have is a 5-pack of yard waste bags. Current price for those at City Hall is $4.75. A new price for the contract to cover the cost of it would be $5.40 as well. It is important to note that the collection and transportation of yard waste is handled under a separate contract between MWA and our current sanitation provider, Midwest Sanitation, as well. So let's go ahead, please, Mandy. Now, in summary, staff is recommending renewal of the program as outlined this evening. It is also important to note that if council were to approve this resolution, we would discuss an ordinance change to increase the cost of the bags for the program at our June 15th meeting as well, and that proposal would be what is outlined here. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I believe that concludes our presentation. Be more than happy to answer any questions the mayor and council may have on this item.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Skiba,
Support.
Vanderhorst, any discussion?
I actually had somebody who moved, I believe, from Johnston this past year, talk to me and said that they, it's not necessarily for today, but it's a good discussion. They actually had a third bin for waste like this. So it was, I don't remember if it was once a week or once a month or whatever it was collected, but it was the same type of, as our recycling and our waste bins. and they would throw all their compost and everything in those bins, and their opinion anyways, it was a lot easier doing that than, dealing with the bags. So,
The entire population was paying for that then, rather than those that just use it.
sure.
And I think there was quite a few people, at least I know quite a few people that asked me if they got some leaves they can get rid of.
Yeah.
So, otherwise you're gonna pay it. I mean, it's not a bad idea if you're living in a large metro, but
Sure.
in a little more rural area, I don't think it's bad, because people are gonna pay for it if they use it that way.
Yeah.
So this is like an annual contract, as you stated, that was renewed administratively, except now because of the price change. Okay, anything else? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Steve Out,
Yes.
Vanderhorst,
Yes.
Stanström,
Yes.
Hopkins,
Yes?
Spore. Yes.
Motion passed. Abstracts of bills number 2080. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Hopkins,
Support.
Spore. Questions, discussion?
I have one. DGR Engineering, fuel tank storage. You know, I think I'm getting old and senility is setting in, but I know we had talked about that. Was that about a year ago?
Yes.
And that we had passed something, and I guess I was thinking, I rode by there today, and yeah, we didn't do anything there. Do you know what that is for, possibly, Michael, or
An
are
invoice
we?
for $304, and maybe some miscellaneous engineering that they performed on analysis for the project. Ultimately, we did not proceed with the project during the budget because of the cost benefit of constructing the fuel tank storage
Yeah.
on it, and that was after his background as far as the main project. This $304, we'd have to pull the invoice to see.
Yeah, it's all right. It just prompted, it came to mind in February when Texas was all shut down, and I don't know if we could have run during that bitter cold then that we had or not, but I think I would like us to pursue something where we could run 24/7 in spite of the weather. I think that could be beneficial.
Yeah, and I think the point's well taken, like most things with the electric utility, it boils down to risk management.
Right.
And the cost of that,
Right.
of that as well. But we'd be happy, Councilmember Skibout, we'll be happy to put that on a future policy planning item and review the
Yeah.
project, kind of the parameters and what we saw. And also, I think, with the original project, what the concern was our operating agreement that we had to operate our units under must-run situations for MISO. And after visiting the Missouri River, I'm saying that there's less of a concern with being told or informed we have to run, and if you have the
Right.
full
Do
temperature.
you know, did we have any, because there was some lines around here, were we requested to run at all that we couldn't when it was bitter cold then?
As far as I'm concerned, let me look into it. I'm not sure that I ever heard that we were unable to run on that during this past year, but I'd like to go back and review the data on what we have. We'll also take down our nose to put this on a future policy and planning session to revisit
That'd be
the
good.
project.
I think that'd be prudent.
Yeah.
We got that kind of investment, and if you can't, I'm assuming they're gonna start, our rate would be reduced if we cannot commit to 24/365. I'm guessing, from Missouri River, I don't know.
Not necessarily on that. It was more the issue too, the other side of the equation that I think was a particular concern of staff is that we are told to run by MISO to support the regional transmission system. The first question out of the mind, our minds anyway, my mind specifically, if you're telling us to run to support the regional transmission system, that should be a reimbursable expense through
Right.
transmission rates, and that was not the case as well. But we'll be happy to get into those details and revisit it. Like I said, it's similar to other electrical projects. It boils down to a risk management decision, but I think it's a point well taken to revisit it as well.
I would appreciate that, thank you.
Of the engineering thing, Fox Engineering for the wastewater treatment plant. I might be on my wrong project. Is that project done already?
No, they're still on, despite COVID-19, they're within the parameters of completing the project,
Okay.
within the DNR's original scope, but it's on track, but it is not completed.
Okay.
If I remember right, significant, or there was a deadline, wasn't that in July for the DNR, I thought? I can't remember.
Yeah, that I'd have to pull. I don't think it was quite July. I'm just thinking, memories escaping me, but I thought it was 2022 is what they're looking at, but I'll look.
Substantial completion, yes.
Yeah. Mhm.
But wasn't there a goal that we needed to reach? I
The
thought?
DNR has a mandated
Yeah.
timeline where the new treatment standards will go in place. And it's my understanding the project is still on course to meet the DNR guidelines that we're having on it. So, but we'll get that as well. So.
Anything else? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Hopkins,
Yes.
Spore, yes. Vanderhorst,
Yes.
Danstruck,
Yes.
Ski Ballard.
Yes.
Motion passed. Any council member have any other business that you would like to address this evening?
I got one I'd like to bring up. I know we are just overburdened with stuff to do. So I'm getting a lot of people are requesting, and that was one of the premises for Pella Fiber and what it takes to get annexed in.
Mm-hmm.
And are we making any strides? I know that's a lengthy process.
Mm-hmm.
Are we making any strides?
Yeah. Let me just elaborate on this. Yes, we're making tremendous strides on people willing to voluntarily
Right.
annex into the city of Pella. What we have as far as offering services for Pella Fiber is just separate and distinct. In order to even be eligible, we require volunteer to receive not only for Pella Fiber but for city utilities. The applicant or the homeowner, if you're outside city limits, if you receive utility services, whether it's water, electric, sanitary sewer services, or Pella Fiber, they need to maintain and have a voluntary annexation petition on file. It needs to be current during their tenure as a customer for us. So to be eligible to receive city services, if you're outside the city limits, you need to have a voluntary annexation petition on file. The decision to extend services on Pella Fiber outside of the city limits on what we have is a business case decision that we have. Currently, we have 2 areas that we do have that we are serving outside the city limits. From staff's perspective, we'd like to increase that, but that's a business decision that we have to do and ultimately vet through the city council to be able to do it. We'd like to be, like everything with Pella Fiber, right now we've had a significant construction project going on. We're laying approximately 75 miles of fiber optic lines in our community. And so on our docket, what we've been focused on is inside city limits plus the 2 extraterritorial, I call them, areas that we've expanded service that have been approved by the Pella City Council. In the future, we're hopeful to expand more, but it's a business case decision. So
Well,
it's separate. And then the annexation process, what we're simply requesting is just a petition that's signed by the homeowner, has to be notarized. We should have the petition on our website and make it a little bit more easier for people, but that's the key starter. Not necessarily that they have to be annexed, they just have to have a petition on file.
I've had a couple of churches, one you can imagine what it is.
Oh, yeah.
And they want to get on. So if they come in, it could be maybe extended up to them. If they sign,
Well, yeah, again, if they're inside the city limits.
Which they're not.
Okay. Well, depending on where the outside plant is and where we're at, some churches that are currently out that I'm aware of, the outside plant is in very close proximity. So by having that voluntary petition on file, I've dealt with a couple right now. We should be able to serve them being outside the city limits on it.
Okay.
So, but it depends on their proximity, where they are, where our outside plant is.
well, the one is on Fifield Road, and they're going right by, and they're
That's the one I'm.
That's the one you're talking about, yeah. So if they would sign a petition that, of annexation,
We have the outside plant in there, and they're on our way in that general area, that's what we have. But to receive services from the utility on it, whether it's electrical, water, wastewater, we need to have the petition on file. It doesn't necessarily have to be annexed in, but we have to have the petition current on file.
Who do I send them to discuss that?
Why don't you go ahead and direct them to me to start with?
You?
Yeah, and then I'll go get it with our P&Z staff and also.
One more thing you need to do. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right.
We don't get any tax revenue annexing churches.
No, I know, but you get a lot of utilities. I mean, one other thing, and I've had 2 emails and I bumped dog park. I don't know if, because I mentioned it in my letter, it prompted, but I've had a lot of people asking dog park. What's the status? Is it a secret? Can you share it so I know how to respond? It's been, like one person said, it was a year and almost a year and a half ago. So, but I'm passing it on. Give me help.
I
You're
was
on
just
the
gonna say,
council, man.
it feels
You
nice
can't
to have
pass
someone
this
else on
on.
the seat on this one, so, would you like me to take a stab
Sure,
at it,
yes.
you folks? Where we're at is we're working with the Pella Dog Park Association, both on the location as well as a conceptual plan and a financial plan for the dog park. And both of them, I would say, is we're reviewing, I'd say, initial concept plans on both items, both location of the dog park plus the financial request of the dog park too. And we anticipate that we should have something to share with the full city council very, very soon.
So is the dog park coming back and requesting that the city add some funds to it rather than just the land?
Well, I think those are
That's
all part of
involved.
it. I would say, from my perspective, this is the staff discussion at this point with the dog park and working with them on not only their plans from our standpoint, we want to make sure that we have a good conceptual plan for them as well as a viable financial plan. So when it comes in front of you folks and we approve, well, potentially locations for the dog park and whatever the city assistance is in there, that we have a viable project that can move forward, and that's what we're currently vetting now. We're just not quite there yet to be able to share, give an update.
Well, and was requested, do we have any sort of timeline? I mean, is it gonna be in 2021
Well,
or will it be in 20? I'm just passing this on.
yeah,
I'm
I
not-
think it would be dangerous to establish a timeline right now, especially when we're still in the plans of vetting out things like the finances for the project and the things. We should have an update very soon. on
Okay,
it. We're
very
hoping to
good.
be in front of you folks.
Very
So
good.
more
That's
to
enough
come,
ammunition.
Promise.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And I don't mean to burden.
Councilmember Hopkins, Councilmember
There
Swarty.
have been discussions.
We've had discussions.
Yes.
Well, that's going on about 6 years now, discussions.
Well, we-
They didn't have it for 6 years.
Yeah, so it's in the process, but yeah, like Mike said, there's.
Okay, great,
Yeah.
great. That's all I have, sorry. I figured we had time tonight. I didn't want you to set a record, so.
Remember, we have closed session
Right,
and
right.
policy and planning. Anything else?
I have just a real quick thing, not real complicated, just a request. I had a first responder and a couple citizens ask me to stop by the hose tower and look at the structural integrity. And I took my finger on the east side and I thought that the masonite siding looked a little spongy to me. And my finger went completely through, not just the masonite siding, but through the wood. And I'm feeling uncomfortable with that. If we could just have somebody check the structural integrity of that. There's a hole there, and I did it, and so if
the
I
size
need
of
to pay
Lynn's
for
finger.
it, because you have to, but, that scared me when I saw that. It's on the east side, Mike,
East side.
so,
Okay. We're on it, and
Thank
we'll
you.
be back with a report on that.
all right,
So,
awesome, thank you.
Anything else? All right, any member of the public have any other business they'd like to address the council with tonight? Either here or online? Okay, hearing none. Do I have a motion to enter into closed session pursuant to Iowa Code Chapter 388.9, Paragraph 1, to discuss marketing and pricing strategies or proprietary information of a city utility if its competitive position would be harmed by public disclosure not required of potential or actual competitors, and if no public purpose would be served by such disclosure.
Support.
Hopkins, Spore, any discussion? All in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Spore.
Yes.
Reindeerhorst.
Yes.
Danstruck.
Yes.
Skibout.
All right, so we are going to move into closed session. For those of you, if you're on the phone while we're in their closed session, you can remain online, and upon completion of the closed session, the audio for the meeting will resume. Okay, now we're back in open session. So I'm going to ask for a motion to approve resolution number 6303, entitled Resolution Amending the Infectious Disease Action Plan Policy related to the COVID-19 Public Health Crisis.
So moved.
All right, Brander, Horst, Spore, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Reindeerhorst.
Yes.
Spore.
Yes.
Danstruck.
Yes.
Skibout.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes?
Motion passed. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support.
Hopkins, Spore, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Hopkins.
Yes?
Spore.
Yes.
Reindeerhorst.
Yes.
Danstruck.
Yes.
Skibout.
Yes.
Motion passed. We are adjourned. Amended wage scale. We'll start with that one.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, what we have to talk tonight about is the annual proposed cost of, it used to be known as the cost of living adjustment for city employees. This would be starting on July 1st of 2021 and extend through June 30th of 2022. Now, just as a background on this, what the proposal is for a 2% increase for all employees, excluding those in the executive pay plan, and also those that are designated that they would not receive this adjustment. As background, in 2018, the council adopted our current pay plan, and actually this adjustment that we're proposing tonight is linked to the Employment Cost Index, which is commonly referred to as the CPI, and is produced by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. It is important to note, Mr. Mayor, that the latest index that we are actually able to measure over a 12-month period of time was the 2% that we are recommending this evening. The city's budget for the upcoming fiscal year was at 2.5%, so this adjustment is lower than what we had budgeted on this. It is important to note. Council were to approve this amount, we'd have an amount that actually increased in annual wage payments of just shy of $130,000. And before I turn it over to questions, is there any additional input, Corey, Stacy, on this? So we would be, I think what we're looking at is we typically process these on the second meeting in June. We wanted to make sure we address any concerns with the council before presenting this as a formal action item.
Not a concern, just a comment. You wonder, I think we're all seeing in inflation, what that number's going to be a year from now.
So the 2018 was whatever was adopted. I mean, we have to go with this, or?
That was the policy and the recommendation of the pay plan, and what the idea is with the employment cost index is to move the whole scale up to keep to adjust for inflationary increases and to put it to a published index that measures those things. So the idea is to keep us competitive in the marketplace. But council, that was what was adopted in 2018. It's always the council decision on the matter when it comes to wage increases, though.
Yeah, okay.
Given the labor market and the amount that companies are willing to pay, are you concerned that that's going to not be actually competitive, only a 2%?
You know, I think that's always a concern for us, and what we've been trying to deal with this on a case-by-case basis. And that's always just what I would say when you're talking about all city employees, and Stacy and Corey, 104 full-time employees, plus regular part-time employees, and when you're talking big picture, we think that this is an index that we've had, and there's been years in the past where it's been higher than what we've been budgeted, kind of just offsets, but this is the one, what we said when we adopted the plan, we're going to measure it to an index rather than just a recommendation that we have done in the past on items.
And it's a lagging indicator. So like last year when everything was shutting down, the council allocated a 2.8% increase, which if you looked at the June increase, and we're working on March, so if you looked at June, we're much lower than that. So it's just kind of
Yeah, so I was thinking along the lines of Liz too, if this is enough. what leeway do you have? I mean, does every position in the city carry a certain salary, or do you have the ability to pay more if you need to, or we're stuck, whatever that,
Yeah.
how it's defined in the policy?
Yeah. What happened in 2018, and Stacy helped me out on this as well, we went through and we hired Condren and Associates to evaluate positions within the city of Pella. They evaluated the positions both on external equity, which they looked at other cities and what other cities were paying comparable cities to Pella. And then they looked at both internal equity as well. And based off those findings and also where we wanted to be on the competitive side of things in the marketplace with the comparable cities, they made a recommendation to the city and classified the employees accordingly. Now, Stacy, how many approximate pay structures or class bands do we have at the city?
Yeah. Well, no, sorry.
Yeah, it starts off at an 8, and I think it goes to like a 22
Yeah.
or so. So 13 to 14, and there's a wide scale in there, but it's important to keep in mind. Also, in addition to the annual cost of living adjustment, employees are eligible for what's called step or merit adjustments, and those typically are another 2.5% to 3%. Right now, under our personnel policy, you have to get it exceeds expectation to be eligible for a step increase. So the theory is we're going to reward the high performers at the City of Pella. We're still very much in the step increase business in addition to this, but this is just simply what an index is saying is if you wanted to stay in the same wage to have the same value as what you did last year, you need a 2% adjustment. Now, there have been employees, and there, occasionally we get where there's people are looking potentially at other employment options. We typically, what we try to do is looking at the reviews. I'd like to say that's always on a case-by-case basis, but it's also very dangerous when you look at it. What usually happens, and probably a better example before it even gets to that point, you have a star performer performing, their job is X, they're doing X, Y, and Z. What often happens is, in those cases, we factor in the additional responsibilities and we look at the whole position, and the position likely in most cases is reclassified based on justification before it even gets to the point where I have another offer on the table. So, Mayor, I would tell you for most of the cases, the city's valued employees before it even gets to that point, we're able to make adjustments.
You can reclass them.
Yes.
Because I know we all got Jeanette's email that she's struggling to find the lifeguards and stuff. So if we get to the point, can we raise that lifeguard pay if we can't get enough people?
To that very issue, we did it once. This year it wasn't enough, and we're going to have to look at it again next year. But I would say even with an adjustment, that was even more. There's other reasons right now in the environment that we're struggling with part-time people, and I think we're not the only ones in the community.
I do know that this used to be a real battle, especially when we had union and non-union. So when this was implemented, it is very helpful. What I am concerned about is the lag. I think there is a lag because, well, not only labor, but commodities are, and that 2%, that probably was, over an annual, and so you get that caveat. Everybody that is an employer has that caveat. But I would hate to see us go back to where we were at before, as long as we can manage what we got. Like how you approached it, I would not want to see us go back.
Point taken.
Okay. Any other comments? Sounds like go ahead with making that proposal.
Okay, let's go ahead to the next one, if we could, Mandy. Okay, amended wage scale. What we have is just a few adjustments that, along the lines the comment was made on part-time employees. And I think in summary, what we're trying to do is currently for grades A5 and 6, Stacy, or A8, they're not eligible for the annual cost of living adjustment or step increases on the plan. we're hoping to make that adjustment in direct comments on the concerns, lifeguards and some of these other positions. By putting them in A8, they'd be eligible for the annual cost of living increase as well as merit increases. And we think that that will help us retain employees. Is there anything else to add, Stacy?
Yeah, just adding a few pay grades in there. Our A8 was staying the same, and we were giving increases to everything else, so there was getting to be a pretty big gap, which was a very marketable gap of pay there. So by adding those two pay grades, we can kind of fill that gap and hopefully be more marketable as we, especially our lifeguards and our seasonal workers, we can plug into them instead of that A8. So really just to kind of fill that gap.
Okay.
All right. Next item, very closely associated with wage increases. In fact, this one's an item that's key on city employees when we talk about is the city's health insurance rates on it. And I would say with this overall, Corey, what we're proposing to do is increase premiums by 5%. Employees pay for 10% of the total cost of health insurance premiums on it. So the city picks up 90%. We're proposing to continue on with the current policy, and especially in light of the tight labor market that we are dealing with. But this is, when we talk about wage adjustments, this is probably equally important on that end. On that side. So, Corey and Stacy, anything additional to add?
The only thing that I guess I'm not following quite, when it talks about a 5.6 well-mark cost increase, I read that as that's what they're charging us. Is that correct or not?
Yeah.
The 5%, you show the numbers there, that like the 601.37 to 637.44, I didn't calculate it. Is that 5 or 5.6? So if we're getting charged an increase of 5.6, shouldn't that mirror on what we?
So the city, that's a good question. So we operate under a partially self-funded plan. So we have a portion of claims that fluctuate up and down each year. And this past year so far, we still have to get through June, has been a pretty good year. So we'll probably have a little bit of a credit this year.
Okay.
And a little bit of a net income. Maybe last year's it wasn't so great. So kind of just offset some of that claims activity that's really hard to predict.
So that's why we don't have to mirror their increase in this case. Okay.
Yeah,
we do have some fund balance from when we were fully self-funded.
Did we, what was in the budget for an increase?
5, I think it's 5%.
5?
Did we have, no, I think we had 5% in the budget.
Yeah. So what we do is we buy a higher deductible plan through Wellmark, and there's a difference between what employees pay for their deductible and what we pay Wellmark, and we cover the difference, and that's the partial self-funding. What Corey's saying is that's the plan that saves us. That's why we're not charging.
Yeah.
We're only charging 5 when Wellmark's cost going 5.6 is because of those savings.
Okay, and looks good.
Okay. All right. What we have last on this is personnel policy and manual upgrades, updates that we have. What we have here is just some cleanup items, and these are things that I'd say have gone on with the pay plan over the last 12 months, and so we want to make sure our pay plan is accurate and reflective of the positions within the city, and I believe that's basically what we have here on some of these items that we've had. Number one is to reflect the, as previously discussed, we have the removal of the A8 grade and to be replaced with grades 5 and 6 on it, what we talked about earlier. And then there's some general cleanup with city positions and how they've been reclassified. For instance, with the city council approved, I would say, a staffing plan for the police department this year and the creation of the police captain, we're adding the police captain to the executive pay plan as well. Let's go ahead, please, Mandy, and go to the next slide, please. And then these next classifications that we have here, as far as items, I think they're just reflective of what's been done in practice on items. One change that we do have that I would think that we would want to bring to the city council's attention is certain positions that the city have residency requirements that state you have to live within 20 minutes of the city. And we've been back and forth on this, what constitutes a 20-minute response time. Is that miles, or is it the actual time travel? What we're hoping to do is standardize that and move it to 30 miles. Just correct me if I'm wrong, Stacy, just so it's easier on that for the residency. So what we're talking about is items like police officers, electric distribution linemen in certain public works positions, correct? And I think that is everything that we have. So some general cleanups and one, I'd say, change that would just help us easier when we have new employees. This issue comes up is just for clarification on what is the residency requirements for the city.
Any questions, comments?
Just out of curiosity, Liz, could maybe answer this, sick leave versus PTO, are governments about the only ones that still have sick leave?
That I know of.
Okay.
You mean to separate the sick leave and vacation
Yeah.
versus the PTO? Yeah.
Okay.
And that's, and in some of these items, just keep in mind where we've been at. And I think Councilmember Skibout mentioned before, it used to be at one point in time about half of our workforce, in fact, over half of our workforce was union employees. And so sick leave, that was a big item on it. And it still is for a majority of our employees. And so keep in mind, changes sometimes in city government is hard, especially on those items.
What's the policy on accruing sick leave?
So every month that you work 80 hours, and which is why we kind of changed it to the first month, you have to work a full 80 hours, then you earn 1 8-hour day of sick time for every month.
Yeah. But then how about carryover from one year to the next at all? You mean, is there a bank of sick leave days? People, how high does it get?
If you can get up to 100, I believe it's 120 hours, but you do have the option. We have a sick leave bank and a sick, we have a sick leave pot and a sick bank. Your sick bank can continue to grow and caps out. Sick leave at the end of every year will empty out and refill, per se.
So the sick leave carries over, sick bank does not. Or vice versa.
Yeah.
Vice versa, yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's 96 hours generally that employees could earn in sick leave, and then the city also has an incentive program where we can buy back half of the program,
At the end of the year.
and then they could bank the other half up to a maximum. I want to say it's a maximum of 720. Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. And that's been years at that.
Yeah,
So.
It's good that they have the option to buy, or that we have the option to buy them out.
Well, back 30 years ago when I was auditing schools, sometimes schools had a big contingent liability because there were teachers had 450 hours of sick leave banked and stuff.
We also have that same,
Yeah.
that hits our financials as well on it. And again, that, the issue with PTO and some of these items like health insurance, sick leave, it's the complete compensation package, so.
And just from my experience working for the state that had something similar to that with my, I'll say overall colleagues, sick leave is something that can be abused pretty easily.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, any questions, comments? All right, thank you.